Hey folks, welcome to a Blazor Power Hour. Today we're going to talk about something that is specific to Blazor Hybrid, especially when you're working with Blazor Hybrid in the context of, say, a mobile application. And that's what really makes Blazor Hybrid interesting to me is that we can do these mobile applications. And we can do it using the Blazor framework with HTML, CSS, and C Sharp, and even sometimes some JavaScript. But when you're working with emulators, you're going to find out that things just don't always go to plan. So, this episode is about how to connect those emulators when you're using a local ASP.NET Core backend for your applications. I ran into this issue just kind of testing things out. I've had some folks ask, how do I create a Blazor hybrid app that has kind of like the full capabilities of hybrid? You've got your web presentation, you've got mobile, you've got desktop, maybe you've got the ASP.NET Core backend powering all of that stuff, giving web API endpoints their JSON data. So I started putting together this project and everything was working perfectly fine. We've got Jimmy Engstrom here, by the way. It is the one and only Swede Sanderson. How are you doing, Jimmy? Um, so I put together this app. The desktop works. The web part works. The mobile part works until I touch the fetch data page. And then the wheels come off. And I've done some mobile dev in the past, and it was a familiar problem, but it's never been an easy one to solve. So let's dive into it a little bit here. Code with Sean, welcome. Appreciate you all coming out. Um, Long story short, though, I did manage to solve the problem. We'll get into why it was a long story in a minute. But I ran into a discussion thread after much Googling. Google for quite a bit to find this one. So I'm happy to share this thread on the Maui repo with you all that talks about this very issue. So, one of the things that is kind of a problem with this, let's actually get the app going here. And we can break down what each of the layers of this app is and why this is an issue. But first things first, for visual sake, let's get a Blazor, or sorry, a web server up. I'm going to do start without debugging just to make this run a little bit smoother. And this is going to launch my web server. So I've got my web server running on localhost on port 7030. And you can see that this is a Blazor app. I have a fetch data here that pulls this data from, I believe it is weather forecast. There's the JSON data that I was looking for. So I've got a web API. I've got a Blazor app. Those two things, they can communicate just fine across localhost. And actually, let's pull up a little zoom it so I can kind of highlight some things that are happening here. There we go. So my web API sits off on localhost 7030, as well as my web application. They're both on localhost 7030. If we are to build a Blazor hybrid application that runs a Android host, let's go ahead and switch over to hybrid mode here. And let's pull up an Android emulator. Go ahead and fire this guy up. And that might take a second to build. Let's see, we've got our web server still listening. I don't see the build running. Let's try this again. I thought I clicked on it. Maybe I didn't. Oh, now I'm going to get an error here. Must be installed. I've got a workload. I did an update last night, and this was working, but now it's not. So if this build isn't going to work, we're going to have to try to do this the hard way. My demo will not work. If so, I installed the latest .NET Preview 7, which looks like it's causing the Android build to fail. So it's going to make this demo pretty hard. Let's see if I can just launch my emulator so I can explain at least what's happening here. Let's go into the device manager here. It says it's running. All right. So actual Android emulator is failing. I thought it was a .NET error. It seems like I've got a Android device error. It's going to make it super hard if I can't get this to run. We need the we need the emulator running if we're going to demo how it becomes problematic to connect to these backend services. So we got the Google logo. This is looking better. I don't know what caused it to crash earlier. It said on the build process that I don't have the Mac Catalyst workload installed. I'm not sure why it was doing that. All right. So here's the age-old problem of working with mobile. When I'm developing my web application, I'm used to running things here on localhost. And my web app can also see localhost because everything is running here locally on my machine. With an emulator, the emulator doesn't know what localhost is. So if I come in and grab this localhost URL, assuming it's going to let me copy and paste right now, and it's not. So let's type this in. So if I do HTTPS slash localhost 7030, notice it says site can't be reached. Welcome, Findle. We're doing good, except some morning compilation issues. Every time I do a live show lately, it seems like I hit build and it fails. It never ends anymore, especially when you install preview bits as much as I do. So I've got .NET Preview 7 on here, and I think that might have borked my Blazor Hybrid installation. So we'll have to take a look at that in a minute. Other than that, you'll notice my emulator doesn't really know what localhost is. It says connection is refused. There's nothing there. So we can't really connect to localhost 7030 because the emulator doesn't, it's not technically part of this machine on the internal network. It doesn't know where to find the address for that. It's kind of the same if I were to just pull out my mobile phone. I don't have it, but imagine I have my mobile phone right here on camera. It's not in the machine's range for this local host to be found. It's on a different network. Yeah. So what the emulator can do, I think you can actually see this in the settings here, is it, let's see, it will proxy the local host to a different address. So you can see where I've done this before, where I've got the 10.0.2.2. Now this is the default. This is the default port that's being forwarded to the device locally on my machine. Now it's going to throw a certificate error. This is also very important to understand. The certificate coming across from HTTPS is going to say that it is for, let's see if we can see it actually here. The connection is to 10.10. The certificate itself says the name is localhost. So now the certificate doesn't quite match the website that's serving it. So it's been forwarded through this port, and the browser is kind of alerting us to the fact that this might be like a man-in-the-middle attack. So this isn't going. It can work. I can hit advanced here, and I can kind of override this unsafe mode and say proceed to the unsafe website. And then here's my Blazor app. So you can see my Blazor app. This is the same one that's running on localhost. So I kind of bypassed the security of the browser because it let me. It had an option in there that let me bypass it. Uh, Total Epic or Total Eclipse, sorry, Total Eclipse doing pretty good. Hopefully the rest of this demo works. We had a little bit of a compile error coming into it, but so far so good. So you could see I can connect to my Blazor app as a web application because I'm using the browser, and the browser provides a mechanism for allowing me as a user to shoot myself in the foot a little bit and accept a bad certificate and bypass the security and go ahead and view the website anyway. So that actually works. And I can get to fetch data and I can see my data come across. So if all you're doing is building a web application and you want to test the web app and how it works with a mobile device through an emulator, this isn't too bad. The experience is okay. However, when you try to do this, yes, these are self-signed certificates, by the way. So these are self-signed certificates created during the process of setting up the ASP.NET template. And when you run it in Visual Studio, it does prompt you to create these self-signed certificates. So that is what we're using. And the self-signed certificates, again, they say localhost literally in the name of the certificate. And since we're not on the domain localhost, we're actually on 10.0.2.2, the browser's like, something's not right here. And again, the browser lets us override this behavior. For native applications, however, it's not the same story. When we start trying to build and debug a native application for Android, you can load your Blazor app. And again, I'll try this one more time. Let's see if we can get this to compile. It was having an issue with the emulators. Go ahead and start the emulator back up just in case. Web server's running. Let's go back to our hybrid app. Let's see if it'll let me build it. And it's failing across the board because it's on the wrong version of .NET. So let's try something real quick. I probably need a JSON, or what's it called? A .NET config.json, is it? I need to lock this down to a specific version of .NET. There we go. I need my global.json. I need a global.json file. And let's try dropping that in my, whoops. So the problem I'm having right this minute has kind of nothing to do with the certificate stuff. So last night I installed Preview 7, and this morning my app won't compile because of it. So what we're going to do is just kind of fix that real quick if we can. If we can't, we'll move on. Let's open this in a file explorer, and then we'll just drop down a level here. This is actually probably perfect. And we'll create a new text file's fine. And we'll call this global.json. And we'll just pop into Visual Studio Code for that. And I need to lock down this project to .NET 6. I'm trying to remember which version, though. It's going to be .NET 6-ish. Let's see what happens if I try to compile that now that the file is there. Whoa. Let's see here. You got to get the right exact version in there. No acceptable version is found. Let's see, what version is 6 when you use it in a global.json file? So Nightbot's helping me out a little bit with filling some time here while I look for the proper .NET 6 SDK. Let's see. Let's try the .NET website, .NET SDK. .NET 6. There it is. That might be the version number I need right there. You got to have the exact correct version number in there for this to work right. Now let me try to rebuild my project. And it failed miserably. Let's see. Unable to resolve SDK. All right. Maybe we need a little command line foo here to get this working. If we can't, we'll just talk about what's happening here and how to fix it. And while I do this, let's talk about DevReach for a moment. So Nightbot's reminding me of DevReach. I'm going to go ahead and play just a little ad for DevReach while I look up this resource that I need for .NET 6.
So, what is the best way to reach developers?
DevReach, of course.
Yes, DevReach, and we are back September 11th to the 14th, Boston Waterfront. Come and join us. There's going to be the latest in .NET, .NET MAUI, Blazor, Angular, accessibility, so many things.
I hope to see you there.
All right, so I'm in the command line. Again, just trying one more time to see if I can fix this .NET versioning issue. So you could see I've got .NET 7 preview as the default version here. And that's the thing I need to get rid of. So it looks like my .NET 6 installation here is also on a preview. So I'm giving this thing all sorts of headaches. Let me try this in my global.json and see if it fixes my issue. So if I do, let's clear this out. .NET version now, that looks better. .NET build. That looks a lot better. I think I might have fixed my issue, so we can move on with the demo that I planned. It makes it really hard to stream, folks, when you've got new stuff on your machine all the time. Because you plan to do something, you're working with the new bits, and then you install something and it breaks. Looks like I got it, though. Looks like I got it. It's building in the background still, so that's good news. Those APK files that go onto the Android devices, they take a bit to build, but the build was successful, so we should be good here. So let's go back and run the Blazor Hybrid app. Let's see if we can get this up in our Android emulator now that we have the correct version of .NET. So this is building. We'll go ahead and knock this back to the home screen so it doesn't confuse me when the app loads that we're not inside of the web server anymore. Now let's go over to the app or the solution again, and I'm going to run the server application. So if I come in here and say debug, we'll jump in without debugging, make sure the server is running. It's coming up on my other screen here. So this is the beauty of a Blazor Hybrid app is, oh, and it may have crashed as I said that. So let's not celebrate too early. We've got, oh, no, there it is. Okay. Here's the beauty of a Blazor Hybrid app. I have on my screen right now a Blazor app running on the web, the same exact Blazor app running on Android natively in an Android device. Now, let me just look at questions really quick because I do see Total Eclipse was asking something. Weird question. With Python, you can do a partition out. Does C# and .NET have similarities to virtual environments for builds to be done? I don't know what that means. So this isn't my normal mode of operation here. I usually build web applications. I don't get into VMs and all of that too often. It's something that I've kind of dabbled with in the past, just kind of testing devices against websites and things. I've used emulators, but I don't know how it compares to Python's experience. Sorry. So we've got our Hello World app on the web. We've got our Hello World app on mobile. We could even come in here and select our hybrid app and say we want to run this on Windows. Let's see if it'll let me get all three of these going at once and not break the internet, aka my network connection to stream. And look at that. All right, we've got Blazor on the desktop. We've got Blazor on the web, desktop, and of course, mobile. All right. You do not run into the localhost issue on desktop. You can jump into fetch data just fine. You're not going to hit any issues. Same thing with the web. They can handle localhost perfectly fine. It's when you get on the emulated devices, that's when localhost becomes an issue. Now, I'm going to go to fetch data, and you're going to notice it doesn't break. There are solutions for this problem. That's what I want to show you as part of the show today is all of the different solutions. We're going to talk about them, and then I will show you the one that I'm using here now. I labeled the show part 1 so we can circle back in the future. I don't have a date plan for it yet because I'm trying to get in the preview program for one of the solutions to this issue. So I pasted this in chat earlier. I'll paste it one more time. Open a new tab up here. And let me find the thing. This is labeled a tutorial, by the way. I think it's more of a work in process than it is a tutorial, but it's a great resource. So let me share this with you all once again, just in case you don't have it open. You're going to want to bookmark this if you're planning on connecting an Android emulator to any sort of ASP.NET Core backend. And having a local dev cycle on that application. So being able to hit your web API without jumping through hoops. Now, first of all, let's talk about the exceptions you might be hitting. These are the exact exceptions that I was hitting and how I found this when I Googled, by the way. So this trust anchor for certification path not found. So this has to do with the fact that the device sees that certificate is invalid. And unlike the browser, your applications aren't going to prompt a user to bypass any of the security. It straight up just denies the app the access, and you get an exception. This is the correct behavior for that device. You don't want to enable man-in-the-middle attacks to happen on your apps. So you want this to happen. It does make dev a little bit tricky, though, because now your self-signed certificates are completely invalid in an application while you're using it. And this can go for not just Blazor Hybrid, but any application, any Android application. This one I was not getting the not verified. There was a third error I don't see here, and it had to do with I tried setting up my server as an HTTP, not HTTPS, so it would avoid the certificate thing. And then you get another error that says that the app is not configured for plain text. So again, it's just making sure that your app is secure as possible, and turning these things off is a bad idea. So Elon Lipton here, who created this thread, works at Microsoft, and this is a really nice post that he created. And he went through all of the solutions that you can use to fix this problem. And again, this was one of the things I tried. So use HTTP instead of HTTPS, but only during development. This requires changes to your Maui app and the server. So you have to create that handshake where your server is configured for HTTP and your application is configured to use that endpoint, because it's going to be a different endpoint, because the verbiage there is HTTP versus HTTPS. And then you have to change your authentication requirements. This is a little much to do to your app. When you start to get serious about deploying the app and stuff, this is going to be a headache. Number 2, use experimental HTTPS connection helpers in Maui. See below. We'll get into this one. This is what I'm using in my solution. This is why you're not seeing my application error out. He says this is a small set of classes that you can add to your project to make SSL work. It requires a minimal change to the Maui app and uses the connection helper during requirement, but with no other changes. So when you are building an app, you start getting serious about that app and you want to deploy it. There's not a lot you have to do to get from proof of concept, prototype, whatever, in development to we're going to launch this thing. Gustamation. I don't know how you want to pronounce that, but thank you for joining the show for the first time. So just to catch everybody up so far, we're building a Blazor Hybrid application. So an application that has a web, try to find the right, there we go, a web, desktop, and mobile app that all use the same code base, and they're all connecting to the same HTTP server that is serving up JSON data. Um, Android devices have a very strict security policy that causes us to jump through some hoops. We're talking about what those are right now. So if I tab back over, this experimental HTTP connection helper is what I'm using. We'll talk about that in detail after we talk about the rest of these ideas. Number 3, this is why I labeled the show part 1 of 2, because I submitted a request to become part of the closed beta for this. So there's a feature called Visual Studio Port Tunneling. I'll open this and see if it gives me a good explanation that I can use. You can sign up for it on this page, by the way. So if you don't have that original link, if you click on number 3 there, you can get directly to it, and I can paste this if you don't have that original link. You can ask a random Maui question there, and I will try to get to it when I get a second. Feel free to post that in chat. I will circle back to it. So the idea of this is you enable this preview feature in Visual Studio. Hopefully this will become a mainstream feature. You check this box. It says enable port tunneling for web applications. You add a little bit of config stuff to your project. And what this does is essentially port forwards your server or forwards the port of your server, your local host, to Azure. So it creates a connection that you can use in your Android app that's going to have this this URL where it's vstunneling.azurewebsites.whatever. And then you just connect to that URL, and it's forwarding all of your ports to that address. So you can just come in, for example, here, like from your mobile phone, scan the QR code and get directly to your app or your APIs or whatever it is from a device outside of your network. So this isn't something that's meant to be scalable or anything like that. All it's doing is tunneling in to your app so you can test it. So that's a really awesome feature. I believe there's some third-party apps that do the same thing. So services that you can purchase that do this. I can't remember offhand what the name of that is. But they essentially tunnel. They set up like a VPN for your application that you can use for testing. So that is an option. The thing about option 3 that makes this a little bit easier than those other paid options is it's baked directly into Visual Studio and it's not a third-party thing. You can also just publish your web app to a remote server and use it as if it is a real website. This one is an option, and I like how he breaks this down, that is slower because publishing that server takes time. There may also be a cost involved. I would suggest just publishing it to Azure. Depending on the size of this backend that you're trying to test, this could become an issue with cost. So it's not the most user-friendly option, as he mentions. What's really nice here is he breaks it down into a table as well. So Elon, fantastic post here. Do I know if Maui issue 6067 has been included in the latest version yet? That I do not know. We'll look at that in a minute, see what 6067 is. I'm not quite sure, like, what issue numbers do what. So here's the different approaches. You can use HTTP, which means no certificates at all. We still haven't talked about the details of what this dev HTTP helper is. It's super simple. You're going to like it. I'll show you that too. VS port tunneling. This is not something that you can just easily get yet. And then there is the test server. So HTTP, it's quick, it's free because you're still on localhost. You can debug. It requires code changes on both the client and server application. That's the negative. Works externally, no. You still are locked into just your emulator. You can't use it with like a connected mobile device situation. Yes, if you can post the link for that bug, we'll take a look at it. The dev HTTP helper. It's just some code that fits in a snippet. You can see the code here in the post. I used this plus I added some code to mine, which I'll show you that makes it even easier to use. And what this does is it basically turns off those security features within the app. So it allows those broken certificates to work. So you're disabling security there. The only thing that you want to watch out for in that scenario is that you set it up correctly so there's no way that code is enabled on the production app. It's easy, easy stuff to do. So it's fast, it's free, you can debug. It does require some code in the app. This is minimal, though. This is really minimal compared to this. And it doesn't work externally. You can't do that externally. Now, the VS port tunneling scenario. This checks all the boxes, but right here, it's a preview feature at best. It's closed beta, so you can't just go out and everybody get on it. And in the future, it might be a paid service. They're not even sure yet at Microsoft what the deal is with this new tech that they've created. So they're still beta testing it. They don't have a they don't know how they're going to make money from it, if they're going to make money from it. I imagine they will. It's either going to have something to do with your Azure subscription or it's going to be a paid add-on, something like that. There's slim chance, in my opinion, this is just my gut feeling, that this is going to be 100% free. Maybe there'll be a free tier to it. So many hits on the tunnel, so much traffic through it, something like that. Per month, maybe I could see a free tier to it, but I don't see it being 100% free. Maybe it comes with Visual Studio Enterprise. There's a lot of ways they could gatekeep this so they can make money off of it. And they should. I mean, they're developing it. They have to make money somehow. You can debug with it. You only have to configure it through Visual Studio. All it's doing is tunneling to your app. And you can work externally from it. So that's an even bigger plus. You can just pull out your mobile device as long as it has the app on it, or you can, if it's a web app, you can just go directly to it because, again, it's pushing your local host to a public tunnel and a domain that you can hit through Azure, of course. Test server. This is deploying your entire application to a test server. It's slow. You might have to pay for that server cost. You can debug, but it's not 100% trivial. No changes to your app, and it does work externally. So there's some cons here. Like, this is the best solution, but it's not ready for prime time yet. This is probably the second best solution here, in my opinion. So this one, we're going to add some code. We're going to add some code to our app. You can find the code here, how to use connection helpers. This is, let's just make this very clear where this is coming from. The code for it is this right here. So those are one and the same. So we click on this gist. you'll see dev https connection helper.cs. You just grab this file. You don't really need to know what's going on in it, but I'll try to explain a little bit of it. So this is basically looking for, there's some if-defs in here. So if it's on Windows, it's going to try to look for localhost. If it's on Android, it's going to look for that 1022 port that's forwarded through the emulator automatically. And it's basically going to turn off the errors that that happen if that that name doesn't match. So the verification happens here, and this is it bypassing that that error so it doesn't happen. That's all it's doing. So it's setting up a where is it? What is this class called? It sets up a there's the Android message handler, but there's actually a name for this. It's not HTTP client. It is an HTTP client. Oh, shoot. I can't find it in here. There is a HTTP client something or other that it creates. It's also using HTTP client. Oh, maybe I'm wrong. It's just HTTP client. I thought there was another class involved here. But to use this code is very easy. So what you're going to do is you're going to want to new up one of these things. Now, this code is not included in the direct repo here from Elon. If you look under forks, you'll see my name. So I forked this example, and I added another method to it, an extension method. Let's see. Oops. There it is. So I added an extension method down here. What the extension method does is it wraps the usage of this into something that dependency injection can use. So in my code here, we're taking the code above and we're actually just exercising it. So we're going to say, give me a new service collection, and we're going to call add dev HTTP client. This is an extension method that's going to extend iService collection, and we give it a port. So whatever our dev port is goes into that that parameter there. It sets up a new dev HTTP connection helper, which is the code above. It assigns the HTTP client, sets the base address of it to the dev server root URL. So it's just creating a base address of 10.0.2.2 slash whatever, or colon whatever the SSL port is, and then it registers that with a dependency injection. So we're adding an HTTP client to our DI, then we return that service collection. So the final call looks like the last line here, and we say if we're in debug mode, call builder services, add dev HTTP client and the port address right there. And then if it's not in debug mode, just give us the regular HTTP client. So we'll do add scope, new HTTP client, whatever your server address is in production goes in here. So this is how you prevent it from going into production. It's just an if statement. So once you do that, you don't have to worry about this problem anymore. So what we're doing is we're saying, if I'm debugging and I'm using localhost, use the add dev HTTP client to resolve my HTTP client. I'm going to say caveats here. If you've got like security stuff, like authentication in your app, there's probably going to be more hoops to jump through later. This is just to get us to the point where we can consume data from our app. I haven't taken into consideration authentication yet, which may open another can of worms. I haven't tried it. I don't know yet. So this is pretty nice. It solved all the problems. If we go into our Blazor Hybrid app and open mauiprogram.cs, you can see in here, there's a big if-def statement, and it says if it's debug, and I'm on iOS or Android. I'm assuming this works on iOS as well. Not 100% sure. I have to check into that one. I'm going to call builder services, add dev HTTP client. I'm on 7030. Your port may be different. If I'm not debugging, we're going to go ahead and connect to, I don't have a real server here, so I just put in my local host. That would be, my domain at work.com/API, whatever that is. And then there's, if I'm not on Android or iOS, if I'm on desktop, I might have a different address as well. Remember, I've got several different deployments here. And then once I have that, I can just add my other services in and build the application. There is the actual source code for that in the app. It hasn't been put in like a NuGet package or anything. So if I look under services, up under here, you can see I've got my dev HTTPS connection helper. And inside that is the code that was copied and pasted from the gist that I just showed you. So that bypasses that security validation check and gets your app up and running. So now I can have all of these guys working at the same exact time, and I can make changes to my app and test it out locally. And all three applications can be debugged at the same time. Yeah. So it should be enough. Oh, you guys are talking about something different here. So Jimmy's got a ZX Spectrum Blazor project, which is really cool. Super nerdy, love it. It's actually in the intro, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Jimmy, isn't that in the role that I show at the beginning of the show, and you say it's time for the Blazor Power Hour, and there's the Spectrum running in the background? Yes, it is. Awesome. All right. So I think I covered it in an hour, even with a little hiccup with the .NET SDKs blowing up on me there. But hopefully this gives you at least a place to look, because this took a couple hours to find. I did quite a bit of Googling on the error messages that I was getting. There, like I said, 2 of the 3 messages I got were outlined in the original post on this. So if you're building a Blazor Hybrid app and you've got the ASP.NET Core server hosting the JSON data up for it, and you run into these HTTP SSL mumbo jumbo errors, this Java security cert validation exception, trust anchor for certification path not found, you know where to look now. You know where to look. Look at this tutorial from Elon Lipton, part of the Microsoft team. He's been doing a lot of work with Blazor Hybrid. Look here first, read through this, choose the option that works best for you. I say the dev helper little snippet of code that he provided is probably the best so far. The Visual Studio tunneling, when that is mainstream, I think that will be the go-to resource. There's also some other documentation here. There are some things that you can do with your devices and setting up some of the configuration on those as well. I could not get these to work properly for me. Um, and I think that was what I was looking for. HTTP client handler is another object that I assumed was in Elon's source code, but it didn't seem to be there. This is another way that you can check those security things and bypass them if you want to tinker with your own code on that. There's also the Android config files. I was having a heck of a time getting these to work. So there are some XML files you can put some settings into to try to bypass this behavior. Was not working for me. Just wasn't. But those resources are linked if you want to kind of look at those. And then, of course, this is an ongoing thread here as well. So there's probably some decent info here as people will go back and forth on how they're getting their solutions to work. I think this is kind of new ground that we're hitting because Blazor Hybrid and Maui are brand new technologies to .NET, and I think we're seeing more people shift from just Xamarin or just Blazor or just ASP.NET to like doing more stuff with different deployments to different devices. So it should be some interesting times for .NET developers, and we're going to run into some growing pains, and this is one of them. So I am trying to write like a little mini ebook for progress about this, so we can send that out to everybody for free. It'll show you how to build the app that I've got here. I thought I was almost done with that article until I hit this networking issue, and now I've got to write a whole section on how to resolve this problem. But at least there's a solution now, right? So we have a way to do this, and it's really not entirely that difficult, thanks to Elon Lipton posting the code that he wrote. Probably could be a NuGet package or something, but I think when I say they, I mean like Elon and the ASP.NET team and the .NET folks probably don't want to make that an official resource on NuGet just because there's legal headaches that come with it. So there's a gist right now. It's kind of like one of those use at your own risk type of things. Give it a try. Give it a try. Just make sure you don't push that code as the production HTTP client. You're opening yourself up to some hacking. So make sure you at least if-def that thing out and say if it's in debug mode, only use that HTTP client for debugging. All right. Yeah, I'm not going to talk about the other Elon. Spelled different too. Hopefully I'm pronouncing it right, but I think they're both pronounced Elon. Yeah, so I meant to circle back on the issue that was posted earlier. Let's see, what was that Maui issue? 6067. The software here it lets me highlight the issue, but it doesn't let me actually click the link. So we got to type this guy in. github.com/.net/issue/6067. At least it's human readable. All right. Externally hosted images cannot load on native apps. Interesting. So if you have an image that is hosted on, boy, that would get tough. So the example that's given here is like a WordPress site or something that has like all of your images that you're using for your app, and you load it up in an Android or deployed app. You get an error of an attempt was made to transition to a task to a final state when it had already completed. Okay. It is closed. So I think the question was it released to production yet? So sometimes you can come down to the bottom and you can see the bot messages and other messages that say like, that one's closed. Images are displayed on Windows, but not showing up on Android. So there's still an open issue regarding this. Did not make it into RC2. Should be fixed with RC3. P1 label added 5 days ago. Work that is critical for this release, but could probably ship without it. That doesn't sound too promising. That doesn't sound too promising. So, so you had your images in a Razor shared project. This is something that I'm not quite 100% aware of. I don't have any images in my project, but we could try to add one maybe. So is this only for native UI or is this for so they're using native UI here. I don't know if this is going to be an issue for Blazor Hybrid because a Blazor Hybrid app is using a Blazor Hybrid on Android, really? But if it's in, is it in the web view portion of the Blazor Hybrid app though? Because I wouldn't imagine that would be an issue on a Blazor Hybrid app if it's in the web view of it. So I'm trying to actually find my app. Okay, so I don't have an image in here that I'm aware of. So you're saying if it's in the the Razor class library, let's go ahead and stop this guy. We can go ahead and stop our server too, just so we don't have a million things running. Just give us a little bit of a clean slate to do a quick example here. So in this application, I have a client, I have the hybrid app, I have a server app, I have a shared app, I have a shared UI app, and that shared UI app is a Razor class library. So you're saying that your image is here and it can't be used in Android? So if I were to come in here under www root, I have an icon PNG in here. I'm assuming I can use that in my code. So if I go to my index page and I just say image source equals, it's already got the pathing. I don't think that's the right path though. Don't think that's the right path. The path would be under, so it's not in CSS, it's just in www root. Let's just try it without anything there. And we'll do the quickest check possible, which is just run the server really fast and see if it comes up in the web app. If I can see it in the web app, then I can just load it in the Android app and see if it works there. Want to check first. Okay, so I got a broken link here. It is looking for that image where? So localhost / whatever. If it's in the www root folder, it's going to be _ content / my Blazor / no dot shared UI / so we got to have the right path first. So when you're working with Blazor Hybrid and a Razor class library, this Razor class library has a www root folder, which becomes content / my namespace. So this becomes content _ content in the namespace of your app. So that should fix that issue. I probably need to rebuild to actually see it, or at least save. It's saying that that edit requires a restart of the server. That's fun. So much for hot reload. So let's look at that one more time. And there we go. So our logo shows on desktop, or not desktop, on the web. So now let's run the same app on Android and see if we get an error, or at least get a broken image or something on that view. So that's on our index route. So we should just get it right straight on our index page when the application loads. So let's see, it's got to start the emulator because I stopped it. Let's go ahead and just manually start it. Looked like it errored out just trying to kick it off. All right, the emulator's up. We got to republish the app. It won't be in the current version that's up there. And this should reload. So off and on again. And there's the image. So that image is in a shared class library. Razor class library, just like you said. So this is not, however, in an image what do you call it? An image blah 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 thing. This is not in an XML Maui view. This is in a Blazor Hybrid Razor component. So that may change things. So if I were to go back to main.razor, no, it's main page.razor. And in here, I have my content page and I have my Blazor web view. If trying to remember how to do this in Maui, I'm not too good with XAML stuff. I need a layout here if I'm going to add an image to it. See if I can get back to the thread here. So the code in here looks like, I know they had an example. Where is it? Maybe they didn't. I thought there was an example. Let's try the workshop. Oh, the workshop's 404. That's fun. I just need some basic view code. Can I get some basic view code in here? I thought I saw some. So I need like a layout. Displaying data, maybe? Like any of this should do. I just need an example because I just don't know how to code it from scratch. Okay, there's the collection view. That's not what I want, though. Horizontal stack. There we go. That's what I want. So horizontal stack with an image in it. If I do that, I don't know how to do this binding image thing and get the actual source in there. Okay, so we're not even data binding. Can I just put the raw path in there and just make that work? Let's try it. I'm willing to try it. So we need to end that horizontal stack layout, and then we can just throw our web view inside of it, I hope. And then the source is going to be, can I just put the underscore content slash, what's the Blazor namespace is my Blazor dot shared UI slash what was the image name? And we'll just take this whole thing. So this is rendering an image using a Maui component, a Maui UI component, instead of a Razor component. And then let's see if that actually compiles and does anything. Again, my Maui skills are not the finest, but it worked. It worked. It's in there. My view is a little. Oh wait, no. Hang on. that didn't work. That's just the rendered. Let's try this. Let's take the web view out because that's confusing as heck. Let's save that. Save. Does it hot reload? It did hot reload. I'm not getting anything. So I don't know if I'm doing this right. Image is set to fill. The request width is 100%. Height is 100%. Or that maybe that's just 100 pixels. I don't know in Maui land what that is. Let's see if there's any errors. Output. Let's try this. Let's clear that. And let's try a rerun. Flush all the messages out of the system here. Output. There's an error. It looks like failed to load resource. It doesn't look like it's working. No such file or directory. /content my Blazor. You know what? This might, since it's not a web view, probably needs the HTTP. HTTP. Let's try it unsecured first. Save that. Blazor Mr. Magoo's here. So we're just we're kind of off topic now. We're just doing a little exploring on an issue that Gustamation is asking about. Still hope I'm saying that right. Try doing another reload here. See if it throws that same resource not found. Failed to look for, failed, blah, blah, blah. Shared UI. So this should be the correct URL. So there may still be an issue with getting images off the web in your app. We'll try it with the HTTPS, but I don't think that's going to help. Doesn't seem to work. Yeah, you might still have an issue there. Doesn't seem like it made it in the latest version. I think that I don't know if you commented on that thread. You might want to post something in there letting them know that it's doing it from a shared library as well. It works inside of a web UI. Don't know if you can do it this way. Wait, hang on. Oh, my web server's running. I was going to say I might not be serving any resources here. That could be an issue, but it seems like I am indeed serving the Blazor app. Yeah, the Blazor app is running. So if I look at the URL for that, let's just grab the actual raw URL for it. Copy link address. So here's the actual item. So there is a URL problem here. So this is my bad. Let's try that again. This is going to run into that same local hosting thing. So this needs to actually be 10.0.2.2 7030. Let's see if it does it that way. That would be the correct URL. So far it hasn't had a good URL to hit to get that resource. And still nothing. Still nothing. Output again. So here it's hitting. So we had to have that. It's the same error. We bypass this error when we're doing data through HTTP client. I don't know what it's using to get this, but it's the same thing. It's a certificate error. So we definitely can't do that. We might be able to do 5030. Let's try that one more time. So this is basically getting the forwarded port that doesn't have SSL. And still an error, I bet. What's the error this time? Still a trust error. So it doesn't like that URL either. Trying it in the browser again. Because this is the local, oh, well, yeah, that's not going to work because it needs to be local host if I'm on a browser. And it kicked me to HTTPS. So it looks like I don't have my server configured right for this. Yeah, it's going to keep forwarding me to the SSL version of it. So I would need to go in and configure my server. Let's just try this. This will answer the question. This is even easier. Just go anywhere there's an image I can use. So let's go right to Telerik.com. And let's do this, find a source. Is there should be, geez, our stuff's hard to find an image on. Blog post will have it. So let's see if we can grab this DevReach banner. So I'm going to go to telerik.com/blogs and see if I can grab, there we go, that banner and display it. Just weed out the whole internal server issue that we're having. And no image. No image. What is the issue here? Don't see one. Oh. So just an error that doesn't have a lot of text with it. It seems like images are problematic somehow. There we go. Yeah, so it looks like the issue's still there. Doesn't look like it shipped. Failed load path. Stream object drawable remote. I think that might have been the error that we saw in the GitHub issue. Doesn't look like it made it. Yep. Invalid operation, attempt to... No, that's not the same error we're getting, but it does look like it's throwing an error. Image loader on complete. Doesn't seem to work. Either I'm doing things wrong or it's broken. Again, not a pro at the whole XAML part of Blazor Hybrid or Maui. So there could be something there, but it doesn't look to be like it wants to grab external resources without having an issue. The fun of growing pains, like I said at the top of the show. No problem. It was interesting for me because I don't do a whole lot of the direct like Maui Xamarin stuff. I've been focusing on the Blazor WebView stuff, and things just seem to be working okay in that regard, except for when you go to get data over HTTP on a localhost. That security is tight on mobile devices for good reason. So we'll wrap up with that being said. As soon as I'm ready to share this project, I will. I don't feel like it's quite there yet. So I don't have this online yet. Every time I feel like I'm like in a good spot with this project and I share it online, um, there is a change from the Microsoft folks that breaks it, and I keep having to go and update the project. Now, I'm writing an article about it. It's gotten quite long, so we're gonna do like a mini ebook, white papery thing. It will be free to access on the Telerik site at some point, and I'll publish the source code when we publish that resource. So I'm getting ready to write the resource on based on the tutorial that Elon has put together. This is going to be a section in that white paper on how to add this to your project and get it running. Once I do that, it'll go through some editing stuff and it'll be on the website. Orange papers are fine too. I don't discriminate. Actually, one of my favorite colors. So we could publish it in orange if you'd like to do that. We can do that. I mean, if you go to my website, there's plenty of orange on my website. We could totally have an orange paper if that's what you want. Fuel snap. Well, purple's fine too. I can do purple, blue. You know, those work for me. Yellow. I draw the line in yellow. It's a little hard on the eyes, but yeah. Anyway, thanks for joining me. We'll be back this afternoon. I'm working with John Bristow on a time for Eat Sleep Code today. I think he's got some things going on. I don't know 100% if we're going to have a show. If we do, it might be a little early or late. We were trying to nail down a time to get around some other scheduling conflicts that he's having. So still waiting to hear back from him. If not, we've got other great shows on the channel as well. We've got, let's see, let me see my calendar here. What do we have coming up on the Blazor Power, or not Blazor, the Code It Live channel this week? We've got, take this calendar off the main screen here. Okay. My calendar's having a demo fail. We usually have React Wednesday. I think we're retooling a little bit of that. Don't see React Wednesday coming up today. We've got some folks on summer vacation still. So just keep your eyes on the channel. Hit subscribe if you haven't already. That'll give you updates. We're doing Blazor Power Hour now. Thanks for the reminder, Outlook. But we'll have more content coming up on the channel throughout the week. And if you subscribe on Twitch, then you will get alerts when that happens. All right, folks. Thanks for joining me. Appreciate the questions, and the GitHub issue was interesting to look at as well. Hopefully this solves some problems for you all until there's better resources out there, including that handy new tool in Visual Studio I'm trying to get a hold of. If I do get a hold of that tool, we'll demo it here on the show as part 2 of this troubleshooting HTTP with Android devices and localhost. Thank you all, and we'll see you later.